Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. Thank you so much for watching every day, Monday through Friday, beginning at 2 p.m. on the Eastern Time Zone. As I get to ride home with you in the afternoon, you may find us on television two different ways. John, you'll be proud of this. We're back in North Alabama with Channel 182, and that's close to the Huntsville area. Glad to be back with them again. You can also find us on Abundance Television, still found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And don't forget the podcast on the newscasters.com, and the biggest radio station, country radio station in South Carolina is WZLA. Proud to be part of that team. And make sure you listen to Benji and Lacey, by the way, in the morning. It's a brother-sister team. And I'm just telling you, they can really let the dust fly when they get started. So make sure you check them out. And if you're into local and national news, you need to check them out in the mornings. Real proud to be part of that team. I've got something else we're working on as well, and I'll be making a formal announcement. I wanted to say something while John was with me, because John has been involved in my show for many years, and he's always the first to hear. So I've got to put that out there, yournews.com, as a broadcaster, and I'm really proud to be part of that. We'll begin that next week, and we're really excited about it. So John Merrill is with me. He's our former Alabama Secretary of State. And I'll just have to tell you, John, when you were Alabama Secretary of State, you really pushed the boundaries to make sure that the election it was topmost integrity. And I just wanted to say, I always felt very confident voting. And thank you for all you did.
Well, you're very kind to say that. Our singular goal was to make it easy to vote and hard to cheat for all Alabamians. And we worked really hard to make sure that everybody had an equal opportunity to participate. We wanted to ensure each and every eligible U.S. citizen that was a resident of the state of Alabama was registered to vote and had a photo ID so they could participate at the level that they wanted to, whether it would be as a voter, whether it be as a candidate or an office holder. And we think that that's very important to make sure that everybody has that opportunity.
Well, what I noticed also during your tenure is you were able to bring Republicans and Democrats at kind of a speaking point where they would actually try to make things happen. How did you do that? Because that's hard to do these days.
We tried that, and one of the reasons that we thought that was so important, Donna, is because we all live together in this state, and we all should have our voices heard, regardless if we're black or white, if we're Democrat or Republican. As a matter of fact, I got a text message last night from African-American teacher that I know from another part of the state that was asking me some questions about the reapportionment issues that are currently ongoing in the state of Alabama. And I expressed to her my concern about the way that things are currently being handled by the legislature and by executive leadership. And I think some of those things are very disconcerting, because each and every person should have a right to have their voice heard. And it doesn't mean that you're going to agree with everything that is done or everything that might be done, but it does mean that everybody should have an opportunity, equal opportunity, to have their voice heard. And that's not always the case, because we have some elected officials and we have some people who are candidates for public office in this cycle who don't believe that, and they certainly don't practice it.
Well, and it's hard to get along with folks. What you have to do, and what I've learned from you, actually being a success of the store, I know that there are times you thought I probably wasn't listening, but I was. And so what I've done is I've implemented that into my business. And one of those big things that's huge is common ground. I don't care who you are. You've got common ground with someone that you totally disagree with on the political world. How did you do that?
Well, you're exactly right. And it's funny that you say that the way that you did, because you're for Auburn, I'm for Alabama.
That was a big one right there.
We have different teams support, but one of the things that we're both for is we're both for the state of Alabama. We want the state of Alabama to do well in everything that we do because we know that it reflects all 5 million people that live in our state. And I believe, and I have been taught this since I was a little boy, that we all have something in common. And John Kennedy said it best when he was giving the commencement address at Rice back in 1963, when he said, the common denominator is that we all inhabit this same earth. We all want what's best for our children. And in the end, we are all inhabitants of this planet. And we need to make sure that we're working together to help our planet be all it can be. And that's every country in the world, every state in the union, every county in Alabama, every municipality in every county. And when we work together to do that, I think we can solve problems that are presented to us, and no problems will be too big to overcome.
Oh, that's true. You know, I shared the story with you about my parents. My dad was Democrat and mother Republican, and they still voted. You know, and I would quiz that. I would say, why are you doing that? Because you're really canceling each other out, you know, and I was young then. Of course, I've always voted at every election because it was just beaten into our head. It doesn't really matter. And I guess I thought, well, if they go vote with, you know, even though they're canceling each other out, it must really be that important. And that's what they said. They said, hey, we're going to vote no matter what. You know, we're out there at the polls. And so let's talk with folks who maybe don't count an election that serious until it gets to what they call the big one, the presidential election.
Well, look, I think that the most important office that one can hold is a city council position, a city school board position, a county commission position, or a county school board position, because those are the positions that are closest to the people where individuals live. And as you separate where those individuals are, the closeness of the elected official to the constituent, you find that oftentimes those people listen less to the constituent and listen more to those other people that are attempting to influence them in the way they conduct themselves in the public sector, whether it's because they give them contributions or whether it's because they have other ways to influence them and to encourage them to take action that may not necessarily be in the best interest of those people that they represent. Whenever we see that occurring, that is a red flag. And when that red flag has been raised, I think it's important for us to give attention to that. But the position that is the most removed from all of us is the presidency, and yet it's the one that will tend to generate the most interest and the most participation because everybody wants to have their voice heard when they're choosing our nation's chief executive.
Mm-hmm. You're so right about city council, the mayor, those positions. So there's an area here in South Carolina, and I'll have to tell you, I like both sides. And the mayor is having conflict with the city council members. In your opinion, how can they find common ground? How can they work this thing out? It's about the water. There's a water issue.
Well, again, we have to remember that they are all inhabitants of that same municipality. And if it's a water issue, every one of us has to consume a large amount of water each and every day, or we're not going to maintain our health. We have to make sure that the water that is there is water that can be consumed for drinking, water that can be used for gardening, water that can be used to make sure that our crops are receiving the kind of water that they need to survive, that our animals are receiving the water that they need, whether it's our pets or whether it's cattle or other animals that are important to our daily lives, but also when we're washing our car, when we're making sure that our clothes are clean. All of those things are so very important. And if we can't figure out a way to solve that problem, then what's going to happen later on? Because that's one of the biggest problems that we have is if we don't have good potable water that can be used to make sure that we are surviving and thriving in industry, in our local economy, then we're setting ourselves up for failure in a massive way.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to let you in a little secret, but you don't need to tell Phil about this, okay? Promise you're going to be hush-hush? Okay, I'm an Auburn fan. He's an Alabama fan. Okay. I got my credentials in gardening and all that through Auburn University, so I'm real proud to hold that. But I will tell you this, don't tell him, okay? So when I see that Auburn doesn't have the chance, I do root for Alabama because it's the team. I mean, it's the state we were in. And I've seen a lot of people cut off their nose to spite their face about things that are happening in their own neighborhood, their own state, their own whatever, the Southeast, whatever, because they disagree and can't come together. And he actually does the same thing. He doesn't want me to know this, but I've noticed it. So when Auburn has the chance, he will secretly root for Auburn. But you know something, you want your state to win, right?
That's true. And look, in today's political environment, one of the things that we've seen repeatedly is people who will work hard in order to make sure that if they don't have 100% of what they want, that the other side fails miserably. They think that's an accomplishment for them. And yet many people, especially people that are our age and people who have had our life experience, remember Ronald Reagan is not just one of our favorites, but one of our very best presidents. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that President Reagan said was, I would rather have 80% of what I want than 100% of nothing. And if we're able to do that and working together to accomplish that goal, there's so many positive things that we can achieve. I also think it's important to remember another thing that he said, which was, if we don't care who gets the credit, there's no doubt what we can accomplish together.
You're all winners. You know, people who are winners in business, they want their employees to be better than them. That's why they choose these particular ones. Maybe I find out what my weaknesses are and I choose an employee to take over that strength. That's what makes us all successful. It should not matter what party you're in.
100%. And if we lose sight of that, it's a failure for our entire community, our entire county, our region of the state, our state, and the nation as a whole.
You know something, I have a buddy this guy I went to school with, and we're on two different planets when it comes to politics, but he's still my friend. But I'll tell you what I did, and I think he just wants me to tell him that I love him sometimes. So what he'll do sometimes is get on my Facebook page and he'll start, and then I'll just say, hey, I still love you. And this guy's like an avid gardener. I mean, this guy knows all these things I don't have a clue of. I'm still just learning, even though I have the credentials through Auburn University. And so I'll just get him off that topic. I'll say, we're not going to ever see. We're never going to see eye to eye. But you need to be writing books and you need to be having classes on gardening. That gets him every single time. And I know Chandler, I know you're watching right now. But Chandler, I appreciate all your gardening expertise, and you really need to get that and run with it because people are getting more engaged into that kind of life anyway. John, we're going to have to go into a commercial break. I can't believe half the show is already over. We'll be right back in just a minute. So everybody hang in there. Twin City Used Car Sales has been serving drivers in the Northeast Alabama area for years with a quality selection of late model used cars, SUVs, and pickup trucks. On top of our extensive selection and competitive prices, we offer professional auto financing services for used car buyers of all credit levels. Whether you've just begun your search or you're ready to secure your next vehicle, at Twin City Used Car Sales, you will drive away with the vehicle of your dreams. The sales and finance staff at Twin City Used Car Sales looks forward to serving you, and you can apply for financing online before your visit to our used dealership in Gadsden, Alabama. Check us out on the web at twincityusedcars.com or go by our location at 901 First Avenue, Gadsden, Alabama. We sincerely look forward to serving you. You know, finding the right home isn't just about bedrooms and square footage. It's about comfort, security, and the feeling you get the moment you walk through the door. That's why so many families across Greenwood and the Lakelands area trust Jenny Ferguson with Keller Williams. And I'll tell you from personal experience, Jenny was my realtor, and she truly cares about her clients. Jenny takes the time to listen, to understand what matters most, and to guide you every step of the way, whether you're buying your first home, upgrading, or ready to sell. Because this isn't just a transaction, it's your life. With local knowledge, personal care, and a commitment to getting it right, Jenny Ferguson makes the process simple and even enjoyable. So if you're thinking about buying or selling, now's the time to make your move. Call Jenny Ferguson with Keller Williams in Greenwood today and take the next step toward a place you'll truly love coming home to. Good afternoon, Sunshine. Medical Minute brought to you by Dr. Chuck with Lakeland's Chiropractic, where an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. So what is the Beamer? Okay, now the Beamer uses very gentle pulse to electromagnetic signals. This will stimulate healthy muscles and it supports the temporary blood flow. Now let's talk Beamer and circulation support. Now the Beamer gently supports natural circulation in healthy muscles. Now that's what I call natural health. Thank you so much for watching your Medical Minute, brought to you by Dr. Chuck. You know who he's with. He's with Lakeland's Chiropractic, where an ounce of prevention is worth what? A pound of cure. I hope you have a super duper awesome rest of the afternoon. You take care.
Lowe's knows that the projects you build in spring are the ones you can't wait to share. It's why we make sure you have our best deals with My Lowe's Rewards, and that you get help from people who've
been there,
done that.
Try this.
This spring, we'll help you build something rewarding.
Hey, Stan.
What's up?
I made you something.
Oh, thank you.
And I got something for you. You grew these?
Of course.
Lowe's knows how to help you spring.
Okay, we're back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of Donna's Edge television, radio, and podcast talk show. We've been doing this for 21 years. It was 21 years, April the 1st. Can you believe that? I would choose April the 1st. Oh, wow. So the guy who on the station said, you can barely remember your wedding anniversary. So why don't we just go on ahead and pick a date you're going to remember? And I said, well, give me a couple of choices. I'll do whatever you say. And he said, I'm going to give you the choice. It's either April 1st or April 15th. And I said, I don't want tax day. Let's just do April 1st, as weird as that is. So we did it, and I always remember. So sometimes I forget how many years, but it is absolutely 21 years. And John, you've been a big part of my show, and I appreciate it more than you'll ever know.
Well,
And
you've always been kind to have me as your guest, and we enjoyed appearing with you as often as our schedules will permit.
And that sometimes can get touchy because I know you're a busy guy. Let's get back a little bit more into, we got into this discussion about how folks can just simply get along with each other. And sometimes, John, it can start with one or two people. So why don't you and I just head this up? And I'm talking about how people during an election, how they start slinging mud at each other. I've never seen a cleaner race in my life than yours was. You stuck to the topic, and that's why you got reelected. Okay, that's why you had 2 terms. So you stuck to the topic, and if there were naysayers, you just didn't listen to it. I mean, you just went on with it. So let's start with folks who are thinking about running for office, maybe in a few years, and they say, well, I'm afraid to get into it because it's going to be nothing but a fight and an argument. What do you say about that?
Well, always the case. I think one of the things that can lead you astray is when you don't have a clear set of principles or guiding lights that will allow you to go where you need to go and be the kind of public servant that you hope to be. I think a lot of times people just want to be elected because they want to hold a position as opposed to wanting to accomplish something. I think that what our people want to see is individuals who are interested in helping solve problems, helping be there for them when they need some assistance, and in doing it in a way that allows them to know that they can contact that individual whenever they have a concern or an issue that's important to them. If they feel that the person is just in it for themselves, they know that that will be revealed. And when it is revealed, then they look forward to replacing that individual.
Well, I'll tell you something. The plain old Donna, the farmer who was out there with the garden, and I have boots on the ground. I'll just have to tell you, people are tired of hearing the arguments, and sometimes it can go in somebody else's favor. I was talking with Bobby Ledbetter with Twin City Used Car Sales, and he said, "Boy, they're going at it." And he said, "It kind of makes me think of business, like in your business, how your competitors will just get at you." And he said, what he's noticed, and what I've noticed as well, sometimes it just gives you more of a promotion. Sometimes it gives you just free publicity. That's what President Trump, that's what happened. Look at all the money President Trump didn't have to spend on advertising. And I'm an advertiser, so please spend with me. But what I'm saying is, if that ever happens, you're giving out free advertising.
Well, you are. And when you mention your opponents, especially in a negative way, sometimes it actually motivates his or her supporters to be inclined to be active in their campaign. We've seen that happen in Alabama this cycle with a couple who elected to go negative and who have worked hard to hold their negative position. I think that's a mistake. I think we'll find out tonight when the election results come in just how big a mistake it was for that particular candidate. And this cycle, more than any other I can remember in modern times, we have seen a number of negative advertisements that have driven people to other candidates. And people that clear that that's the reason that they're going in another direction, is because they're disappointed in the candidate either of their choice or the one that they thought they were probably going to be supporting.
I know right here, I'm disappointed in one. I just never seen so much mudslinging in my life. And I'm not believing, even though I'm going to vote for him, I don't believe the mudslinging he's saying about his opponent. I don't believe it.
That's another thing, is that Cindy is very fond of making sure that when people ask her about certain candidates, she encourages people to do their homework. They need to do their personal research before they go to the polls. They need to know who the candidates are that are presenting themselves for elective office, and then they need to make sure that they've either interacted with them personally or they have done the research necessary to understand where they stand on the issues and why, where they stand. And if there's not a natural reason for them to be drawn in that direction, it probably means that there's a special interest that's directing them that way, that's causing them to take the current position.
Let's talk about your consulting business and what's going on there, because you're treating that as if you're the Alabama Secretary of State. You're still out there talking with people. And something about one-to-one talking, face-to-face, is wonderful.
Well, I think it's important to make sure that we interact with folks at all levels of life so that we can be of assistance to them. You know, one of the things I was talking to the circuit clerk and the probate judge in Cherokee County about yesterday was how they get the information necessary to help them solve their problems when they're working with the county commission, when they're city council, with the mayors in their community, because they want to make sure they've got the kind of information they have to have in order to move forward to solve the problems for the people they serve all across Cherokee County. And Cherokee County is a rural county in our state, not unlike 52 other counties of the 53 that are deemed rural by any standard one uses to judge in Alabama. And when we are committed to helping them find a way to solve their problems, everybody is more enthusiastic and energetic about coming together to identify the needs, talk about what is important to solve at that particular time, and then moving ahead in order to make sure that the greater good is served for all people.
Let me ask you a question, because everyone who is successful has a core mission in their business, whether it's business, politics, or just running the household. And I'm not saying just running the household. That's important. There are a lot of awesome moms out there who don't work and stay at home. I salute you for that. I think you are awesome, because it's the hand that rocks the cradle. Absolutely. And that's what makes success in the family. But your core beliefs in your business, what would be the number one core belief for you, John?
That if we ask enough questions, we'll find a way to solve the problem for the individual that has presented the concern to us. And a lot of times that means setting aside preconceived notions that we have about what should be done or what the real problem is. And I think in our world today, we don't have enough people that are good listeners. And I hope that when people talk about me and they talk about the work that we've done in any role that I've had, no matter where it's been, that they would consider me a good listener, because I think it's so very important to be a good listener in order to be a good problem solver. One of the things I tried to do when our children were growing up is to encourage them to improve their listening skills so they would be in a stronger position to solve whatever problem or accomplish whatever goal was in front of them.
You know, I found this out customer service when I was worked on with GTE. I was in the corporate office, and I handled the government and corporate accounts when I was there. Got to meet your uncle, and he was one of my great businesses that I got to help out from time to time. But the thing about it is when someone has a problem, it's the end of the world to them. And I think we need to treat it like it's the end of the world. And the biggest thing we had was, and you know how it is with a cell phone company, when the bill comes in, you practically have to hire an accountant. And so I believe in bypassing those issues. If you will just get with whoever it is, whether it's in politics or whether it is a business you own, if a person will just simply go attack the problem before the problem comes to you, if you'll handle it first, I'm telling you, it's a lot smoother. You'll have less hassle and everybody's happier.
Yes, and not only that, but it lets the consumer, the customer, the constituent know that, number one, you're interested in what they're facing, and number two, you're open to helping them work through the issue. And whenever they see that you have an openness and that you have an interest, they're more inclined to come back to you again and to recommend to their friends that they see you. That's one of the reasons why, and it's so interesting to me that this continues to happen, but I have seen people recently who still think that I'm the Secretary of State in Alabama, and I've been out of office for 3.5 years. But it's because we dedicated ourselves and our staff to trying to come together to work and to solve problems. As a matter of fact, there was an individual who actually works in the office of the Secretary of State that told someone yesterday that they were so sad that I was gone, because one of the things they always knew is whenever there was an issue or a concern, that they would be able to talk to me about it personally if it was that important to them, and that our door was always open, and that every week I always went over to all different divisions of our offices so I could visit with those employees and team members and let them know that I was interested in what they were doing and what was going on. And unfortunately, they don't see that today.
No, they don't. But another thing, the secret to your success, I think, also is you had a great team. First of all, Cindy Merrill, for goodness sakes, you couldn't be better than that. So your wife's been totally supportive of what you do. And then Karen Guthrie, for goodness sakes. I would have loved to have had someone like that in my business, throughout the years.
Wife, and I don't deserve her. She certainly deserves a lot better than me, and most people would tell you that. Karen is an excellent assistant. She is the best at what she does. There's no doubt about that. And I would put her up against anybody in the state for any role of support that was required in any field, public or private sector. My chief of staff, David Brewer, I think is the best, what I would consider career bureaucrat / government man that there is in about his time in Tuscaloosa County. Well, his time at the University of Alabama, his time in the master's program at the university, his time with the city of Tuscaloosa, his time in Baldwin County, his time as our chief of staff at the Office of the Secretary of State, and now chief of staff for the Attorney General, has been invaluable to constituents all across the state of Alabama. There is no better public servant than David Brewer. So we were very fortunate to have him in that role. And then he helped identify young people, and he helped identify team members in all divisions at the Secretary's office that we needed to consider for appointments that would allow them to get a salary increase or allow them to have additional responsibilities. So they continue to grow and improve. And he never failed to do that with each and every one of the people that worked for us. And yet at the same time, we went from 49 employees when we started to 36 team members when we left 8 years later. And our office was much more efficient and much more effective than it had been when we started in that role. Because when we began there, they were 7.5 to 9 months behind on processing business filings. And after we left there, we had been at same day on business filings for 6.5 years.
John, we're going to have to call it today. I can't believe how time flies by, but I need to do a shout out. And this is to one of mine and your friends, and that's Marianne Cole. And so Marianne said, I wish John were running for governor.
She's a great friend and supporter to me since we first met back in 2012. And I always enjoy getting to visit with her, getting to see her and encourage her in all the new things she's attempting to do.
And she continues. I'm telling you, age is not a stopper for that girl. She is my mentor. I'm just telling you. And you are too. And so is Cindy, and so is Karen. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And thank you, John, so much for being with me. It's always a pleasure. Continue sending email. It makes my day. Donna@donnasedge.com. Donna@donnasedge.com. You have a super awesome day today. We'll see you later.